Kia ora and welcome along to the Met Service National Forecast for Wednesday the 31st of May. Generally, as we go through the rest of today, it's not a bad story across the top of the country. Plenty of clear sky and some decent spells of sunshine across the Northland. You can see down south, we have got this next area of cloud feeding in from the south, and that will be bringing with it some wetter weather on towards those western-facing coasts. So places like Fiordland, up in towards western, some heavy rainfall through there and some wet weather as well, feeding down towards likes of Stewart Island as well. But generally, through the rest of the afternoon, more dry weather up on the North Line. It could be an odd isolated shower being pushed in by those westerly winds, so mainly around that western side. The east coast looks to be staying dry, and that's a similar story for the South Island as well. Dry up towards, like I say, Nelson and Marlborough, and then down through Canterbury, just a touch more in the way of cloud through parts of Otago, and perhaps an odd spot of rain there. As we head through then towards the night time, you'll see we don't lose that wet weather on that western coast. In fact, we have got some heavy rain warnings for Fiordland up in towards Westland and even up in towards some of the headwaters of Canterbury as well. But I think it is, going to be a wet looking story as we go through the night time in towards the early hours of Thursday and even through in towards Thursday as well. Stronger winds as well. Just ahead of this next feature, you can see those orange arrows there showing some stronger winds. But up on the North Island, it's a bit of an east-west split as well. We are going to have more cloud on that western side and a few showers there, but generally dry through the night time out on the east as well. As we head through towards Thursday properly, we'll find we get more of that wet weather piling on towards that western coast and spinning across in towards parts of Otago and Southland as well. Ahead of that wet weather, some of those strengthening northwesterly winds as well, especially for inland parts of Otago, inland parts of Southland, and up in towards inland parts of Canterbury. We have some severe weather watches for those stronger winds as we head through Thursday and even through and towards the early part of Friday. For the North Island, things generally are a little bit more settled. We are going to keep hold of perhaps a few showers, but generally head towards the east if you're looking for dry weather and even some decent spells of sunshine. With all that activity down on the South Island, we have got some severe weather watches and warnings. The warnings for that heavy rainfall through Fiordland, Westland and up in towards the Canterbury headwaters, so up about the main divide through there. We've also got watches for the rest of the likes of Westland and up towards Buller. And also for those stronger winds through parts of Southland, Otago, avoiding North Otago that is, and in towards the Canterbury Hill Country. And those watches runs right the way through most of Thursday and even in towards the early hours of Friday for those places like, say, the Canterbury High Country and those northern parts of Westland. Head along to the Met Service website for all of that. But we'll start off by taking a look at the easier island as we go through into Thursday. Generally, some drier weather around the likes of Hawke's Bay, up in towards Gisborne, and even towards the Bay of Plenty. A touch more cloud around here at first. You can see we've got more cloud pushing in on these westerly winds. We have got a few showers to watch out for in through those inland parts of Waikato, Waitomo, and even in towards parts of Taranaki. Head a bit further southwards. We might catch a few showers north of Wellington City, up in towards, say, the likes of Kapiti, Horowhenua, but I think most of those will be about the ranges, so it's not a bad story there. But I think more cloud there than we'll see perhaps towards the Wairarapa. And for Wellington City itself, most of the day will be dry, but as we head in towards the evening, those showers will spread a little bit further southwards. In terms of our temperatures, it's still relatively mild, especially over our overnight temperatures. There's nothing too cold at all. Temperatures there, look at that, 13 degrees Celsius for Taupo as we go through the night time, Thursday into Friday. A very mild start to June, it has to be said. 1st of June on Thursday. Top temperatures though out towards that eastern coast. Best of the sunshine, a bit of a fern effect as well. 21 degrees Celsius for those highs in the likes of Napier. Heading down towards that tricky South Island, we are going to find there's wet weather on that western coast from Fiordland right the way up towards Buller. And we have got those heavy rain watches and warnings already in force. Heaviest rainfall up about the ranges, 150 to 200 millimetres of rain. Worth saying as well, some thunderstorms in the mix through there as well. Those strengthening northwesterly winds will push some of that wet weather across in towards the east. You can see it run across those central parts down that main divide. Also through parts of Southland and Otago, some patchy rain moving through there in the afternoon. Although I think we'll find more cloud through parts of Canterbury later in the day, it's probably going to stay dry for most spots through there. We are going to find that cloud thickens up, and there is some of that wet weather about the Canterbury High Country, but I think the biggest problem on that eastern side will be the winds just increasing as we head through daytime. And like I say, we have got those severe weather watches in place. So everywhere from, say, Fiordland, Southland, parts of Otago and up in towards the Canterbury High Country. So head along to the Met Service website for more information about that. But in those exposed areas, we could find winds even reaching a severe gale. So we are going to find, I think, if you're looking for the driest weather, Kaikoura, Blenheim, probably staying dry through daytime, just a touch more cloud through there. And you can see that cloud even thickens up through parts of Nelson and Tasman as well. In terms of our temperatures, Again, it's that eastern side that bears the best, fares the best even, you should say. Highs there, 18s and 19s, a very decent start to the day, to the month. For June, I think it is going to be a fairly warm start, but we are going to find those temperatures change as we head on in towards the weekend. So do keep an eye on the forecast. As we head through towards Friday, you can see this front continues to move north. So this brings that wetter weather towards that western side of the North Line. Generally still a little bit drier on the east, but even here I think we'll find a few showers perhaps later in the day through there. Improving weather down on the South Line in terms of rainfall. It should ease off for a time, but you can see we'll still keep hold of more wet weather on that western coast. Generally drier out towards the east. You'll notice that our winds have taken a little bit of a turn around to be more southerly, and I think that is a good indication we are going to start to see some slightly cooler air back towards us. We are going to find some snowfall about the tops of the ranges as we head through Friday. So again, worth keeping that in mind. It's a bit of a cooler feel, but I think for Friday, it's just generally less of a windy and wet one across the South Line, but we have got those watches and winds still in place for most of Thursday. And I think even those early parts of Friday through parts of Buller and Canterbury. So do keep an eye on those. And you can find all that information at metservice.com.